Hello, everyone. This week we have another special guest. It's Angela Sung, and she's currently an art director at Sony Pictures Animation, working on very secretive new feature films that she can't tell us anything about, but that's okay. She has actually worked on something that I think a lot of you might know about, which is at this point, I think it's just a global phenomenon, K-pop Demon Hunters. So yeah, that was a big one. But in the run up to that, she worked for many, many, many years on many different projects and studios, including something like Warner Brothers, Pictures Animation, Blur, Netflix, Nickelodeon, and lots more. But outside of that, she's also very busy. She founded Warrior Painters, which is like a global art community passionate about plein air painting and entertainment art, of course. She also has a school, I believe, Warrior Paint. Um, Warrior Camp, sorry, Warrior Camp. So she's a very dedicated like art instructor and teacher. And yeah, she's overall, I think, a very busy person, and she's going to share all about that with us and with you guys here. I believe, Emmanuel, you met her in person some time ago.
Yeah, we met at IMAG 2 years ago. And yeah, I still remember going to, well, I think one of my biggest memories was you going, bringing the group out to plein air paint in the rain.
That
And I
was
thought,
fun.
wow, damn, she's very dedicated. Because, but I loved it because I think that we need more analog, more stuff like that. I think it's really cool. I mean, I'm not really a plein air painter, but I can appreciate it. Um, and that's was my first sort of, intro to what you were doing. And then I went to your, you're showing your process, in your talk. So, and then of course, then we started hanging out and going places. Um, so yeah, I was always very interested and curious about how you got started. Because I was sitting in the class and I was just going, wow, this is some of this stuff. I really need to take some notes because it's really good stuff. And I'd like to know a little bit more about like where, how this all happened for you. If you could take us through some of that, it'd be really interesting as a start.
Okay, cool. So actually when I was in like high school, I wasn't too sure what I was doing, but one of our mutual friends, Feng Zhu, I actually reached out to him and I emailed him asking him, "Hey, can I make a living doing art? Because my mom's really worried." And he said, "Yeah, you can, but it's gonna be a lot of hard work and you'll have to work really hard." And I think I took that to heart because I really wanted this to happen. So
Mhm.
during high school, I remember after talking to Feng Zhu, I filled up like 16 sketchbooks in one summer. And it's been kind of
Wow.
snowballing since then. But I actually went to school for industrial design and because I thought I was really weak at perspective and I just wanted to train that part, especially the design aspect, which I think you both are really great at. And I think that's kind of like an underappreciated part of art. Then I graduated. I thought I actually didn't graduate, I dropped out, sorry. And I thought I wanted to do video games, but I don't know how it happened, but one of my teachers recommended me to this job at Titmouse, and I kind of started to do background design from there. And ever since then, I started to do background design. Then I looked for another weakness, which is background painting. And I tried to work on that a little bit more, which led me into plein air painting and gouache. And then I tried to move on to feature animation, and I slowly accumulated experience. And now I'm art directing at Sony, which I think if you told me my teen self, I wouldn't have believed it. So I think what's really fun about art is even though you're not sure where you're going to end up, but the hard work accumulates and eventually you can accomplish what you want to, even though it takes a lot more time sometimes.
Yeah, no, that's so were you at Fang Su's school or no?
Oh no, no, I went to art center. So I grew up
Oh,
in Los Angeles and I'm a local here, but I think everyone has heard about Art Center. Feng Zhu went there, Sid Mead, Craig Mullins, all those really legendary people. So I was like, oh, if I go here, it'll change my life, but it was just too expensive and now it's even worse. So yeah, that's why I decided to drop out.
When did you drop out? Like, was this like close to the end or in the middle or?
Kind of in the middle because for me I needed 9 terms because I didn't focus on the ed like the general education stuff. So
Hmm.
dropped out like fifth term in.
Okay, yeah, because I'm also an art center dropout,
High
so
five.
yeah. But I mean, I dropped out, because because of my accidit, and I was just like, oh hell with it, and I just left LA altogether. But art center is an interesting place, is all I can say.
That's a correct term, I think.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Wow. Cool. Um, so in this journey, was this a span of like how long was this a span of your this whole journey from like school to now art directing?
I would say it's like maybe about like 16 to like yeah, about 16 years right now. So it's been quite a bit. And yeah, it's just never, I think a lot of people think art is kind of like a linear path, but you have to be very flexible and versatile and just ready to kind of pivot whenever. Because like right now, especially in animation, I've noticed that it's very unstable for a
Mm,
career. So I
mm.
think being able to switch between like either theme park or video games or something would be very helpful for your longevity in your career. So I think being like flexible is really important as an artist.
Flexible as in like in terms of the more things you can do kind of a thing, or flexible as in is it disciplines or just more like wider amount of knowledge? Like doing the theme park is obviously very different than doing the animation stuff.
I think that's one thing, having like versatile skills, but I think the common ground is just solid foundation and that design knowledge. But then just being open-minded to wanting to switch between things, I think.
Hmm.
I feel like a lot of artists are kind of stuck. They're like, I only want to do video games or I only want to do animation. So I think that would help if people are also more open. From the
Hmm.
people I've talked to, and then even for myself, sometimes I feel like, oh, I'm only in animation, so sometimes it's hard for me to switch too.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned like now, this time it is kind of like unprecedented and a little bit kind of, I don't even know what the right word to describe it is. And I certainly don't want to, I don't think looking at it negatively is the way to go, um, but I would, how would you classify this time as being in terms of like, what have you noticed and what are some things that people can do to be more, or to ease their worries a little bit more, I think.
I think it's very difficult right now. A lot of my friends are unemployed, whether they're kind of green or even more experienced. But I
Mm,
do think what would help them is I feel like every bad time, sometimes you can make it into a good thing. So
mm,
right now, if you guys have downtime, it might be more beneficial to focus on foundations, to train your design brain, and also just to do things that you're uncomfortable with so that you can also open a different like department in your art skills, just so maybe you can be a little bit more adaptable for pipelines. So even though it's bad, I think you it's not often that artists have downtime, right? So I do think there's kind of a silver lining if you can just look at it positively.
yeah, I mean, we say that too, and in our in the live, because live action is the same. It's a very difficult time right now. And I mean, personally, I think it's that take the time to really do something with your skills, add to it or improve them, or whatever you need to do, because ultimately, when it comes time to be hired again, you're going to be that much further along in understanding the things you like, kind of a
Hmm.
thing.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's great. Jan, did you have anything? I don't want to.
Yeah, I'm a bit curious about or at least from where I'm sitting, like Singapore, right? It's kind of like always kind of like the East meets West kind of kind of area. And what I've noticed recently and is that we've seen a lot of new kind of, not even new stuff, but like a lot of properties coming out of Japan or China, especially in the animation space, and especially recently, coming in with of course, like relatively lower budgets or even low budgets compared to what's standard in America, but making big bucks at the box office around the world, whether it be like Demon Slayer, or I think now Chainsaw Man is doing pretty well. Even like the Chinese movie at the beginning of the year, who I think still stands as the animation movie who made the most money ever, right? Neza 2, I think. And even to a certain extent K-pop Demon Hunters, because even though it's a Sony production out of America, I believe, but it's like a very Asian kind of topic, right? Like it has everything to do with Korean culture, whether it be like music or even just like the way of living, right? The kind of like subtle cultural nods and everything that were captured so nicely. I mean, do you feel like there's like a shift happening, or is the American audience just like so just tired of the kind of stuff they're used to seeing coming out of American studios, that they want something new and something different, and it just kind of boiled over? I don't know. Like, do you have any thoughts on the general state of things, East versus, not versus West, but like any thoughts on that?
I guess just from my personal standpoint and talking to a few friends, I think I feel like for K-pop Demon Hunters, K-pop is so popular right now, and then that movie, the music was so good that I feel like it was just hard not to watch it and enjoy it. So I think because of that cultural aspect of K-pop, and especially with social media, especially TikTok, it just makes it more readily accessible. So that's kind of what my friends were telling me. And then I think the same thing for anime, with social media talking a lot about like all the recent really great animes. I also watched Demon Slayer and I loved it so much. So it was so good, but it was a little bit long, but it was so good. So I think people aren't bored of things, but I think they just want something that's really solid in terms of either storytelling, character building, and maybe this is just kind of a newer way to tell a story, so it might seem a little bit more fresh, but I'm not sure. Like I just really enjoy the characters for Demon Slayer, and then K-pop Demon Hunter. I think the music, the characters were all kind of hot, so that was also really enjoyable too. Um, so I'm not too sure, but I do think maybe just a different way of telling stories is kind of maybe just more fresh and more exciting. Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, I,
sorry. I have
I
one.
was
Sorry,
just gonna.
one little
You go.
question
You go.
for the social media aspect. Do you feel like that kind of the TikTok and Instagramification of these moments that can be easily shared, or like in the case of K-pop Demon Hunters, I guess like everybody can just dance to it and sing to it and make a video of themselves, right? Do you think that's gonna be something the studios want more of? Like, hey, make sure it works well on TikTok kind of thing, like create more of those moments kind of thing. Do you think that's gonna be something?
Maybe I'm not sure because I feel like I'm probably not the best person to ask, but I feel like when they do make it like that, it seems like it becomes popular because sometimes I'm like scrolling and doom scrolling, and when I hear a really catchy song or a cool dance, I'm like, what is this from? And I would take the time to look it up. So if they can get me to do that, I feel like everybody else would probably be encouraged, and that's something that studios probably do want.
I mean, I think there's some kind of success. I mean, I'll be the first to say I'm not a big animation guy, just because I'm not. So to get me to continue or to watch something and not like turn it off after 5 minutes, that's something, saying something. And I actually really enjoyed. I really enjoyed K-pop Demon Hunters, and I honestly, because even Pixar movies at some point, I was like, oh. it's not really doing it for me anymore. You know, I haven't seen these two either. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it, but I saw the first one. I don't remember anything from it, but yeah, I know that one was really popular too.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm curious to see it just to see why it made so much money. But yeah, I'm just you know they hit something. K-pop hit something for me that I could watch the whole thing through and kind of go, "Hmm, all right, yeah, yeah, that was that was pretty
I
good."
think it was really aesthetically pleasing, and the
Oh.
characters were all so funny, and the music and I think the art direction from like the
Yeah.
art directors and stuff, they it was all really great. So.
So what did you do on it?
I was actually towards the end. I worked with the production designer Dave Bleish, and I was able to kind of design some of the lighting and color keys. So that was really fun and challenging because I think typically the animations that I work on, they're a little bit more like general lighting, very natural lighting, whereas there's some dramatic ones, but I feel like they really tried to push the concert lighting and more
Mm,
abstract
yes,
pushed color. So I thought that was really fun. And it was really a great exercise as well.
because you know, like I mean, you're Visdev, but there's so many aspects to Visdev, you
Hmm.
know, because I mean, you know, Stacy taught Visdev for a while, and I'm like, wow, I mean, there's a lot of even within Visdev, there's a lot of section. You know, there's someone who does color keys, and there's someone who does you know more hardcore design stuff, and then
Hmm.
you know, what is your go-to? What do you like to do?
So I think recently I've been getting more into story moments, so I think that's been really fun. I just think the way like you guys also probably do a lot of that too. So just constructing a composition to narrate something, I find it very interesting. But prior to that, I also did a lot of designs. I have to figure out modules. So there's a lot of boring stuff to VizDev that I feel like a lot of people don't think about or see because mostly everybody wants to post their cool stuff. They don't want to post like the boring stuff that you have to do for production. But I've also done a lot of like color scripts and color keys as well. So I don't know, they're all pretty fun and then they're all kind of unique. But I think the one that seems boring but is that is also really hard is signage. So I think I'm pretty bad
Oh.
at that. Yeah. Graphics are like my weakness. Graphic design is not my passion. So
Yeah, well, for the things that we do, you know, you kind of have to do everything.
yes.
But I think for me, uh, yeah, story moments, I'm trying to really go towards that, you know, for more of a live action thing. But you know, I always really appreciated seeing like some of the color keys and all that kind of stuff that like, you know, like I know Dice. Do you know who Dice is?
Of course. Yeah, he's so
Yeah.
amazing.
So what you know, like love his stuff, and you know, I'd look at you know like all the Pixar books, you know, like everything that grabbed me was just the color keys and the story keyframes and stuff like that. So, but I just didn't realize it was so wide, and you know, I guess if you really want to do color keys, then you're not gonna. I guess you still need to know how to do the you know like the design this toolbox kind of a
Mhm.
thing, you know.
I guess
Um,
there's some people that are specifically hired for certain things, but I do think it's better to have like a little bit more under your belt so that you can fit under different pipelines so you can extend your stay. So
so if I ask you generalist or specialist, what camp are you on? I think I know, but
I it's hard. I think both are good, but I think generalist, if you want to just be employed for longer, that's what I recommend. But I do think choosing a specialty is still important within the generalist section. So
yeah,
like
because when I think of you, I think of the lighting. I think of all the your painting. You know that's what always when I look at your stuff is that's always where I get drawn to.
oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that's really important. So I think most of the time I am hired for that, but thankfully some people are giving me the opportunity to do some story moments. So I think if you show that you're willing to try something, that people will
Mhm.
also give you the opportunity as long as you let them know.
So, that's a good, that's an interesting thing because, I think for a lot of people, they'd be like, well, I got hired to do this,
Hmm.
and do you suggest to your, to your art director, hey, or production designer, hey, I'd like to try some of this? Or
Yeah.
how does that actually work? Because, you got hired for, let's say, doing a color script,
Hmm.
and if you want to do some story moments, what do you do? How do you tell people you're interested in that?
Hmm. I don't know if Jan and Emmanuel, you guys are like this, but yeah, I think generally when I start a project, sometimes they didn't know that I could do color script and stuff, so that's towards the end. But if you start off as kind of a designer, you can what I've always been doing, like, oh, can I try to paint this specific moment? And then they'll let you do one, and if you do okay, they'll probably give you a few more. And then if
Mm.
you can do good story moments which need really good lighting, that's how I kind of went in and asked, oh, can I also try some color keys or lighting keys, color scripts? And then they would give you the chance too if they like feel like you'd be really willingly to work hard. So I do
Yeah, because
recommend saying that you want to do things. That's really important.
yeah, no, that's definitely good because I found myself sometimes, at least, at the beginning, not being quite afraid and just like kind of like I don't want to rock the boat, I don't want to like, and then what if I say I want to try to do something and then it's not good, and so I kind of keep my mouth shut. But then in the end, you end up not doing any of that, and nobody will give you that chance.
Hmm.
Uh, and so I mean that's now I try to sneak it in, like
Yeah,
any chance I
sneaky.
get, I'll sneak in some story moments, like whatever, right? Uh, so yeah, I mean that's for me. I think these are just interesting questions for. I mean, it's very logistic, but very interesting to how you would actually ask certain things, or even let's say and I've noticed this and I've been asked this many times is that you got hired to do something. Let's say you got hired to do color scripts, but they're now giving you, like say design a license plate or like you said graphic design. Do you ever say, hey, I don't really do that, or do you just go yes, no matter what the answer is yes, and then you figure it out? Like,
Yeah, I'm so insecure that I usually say yes and then I try to figure it out. So I'm just like, oh, I gotta prove to people. 'Cause I don't know. I feel like that's always kind of what's driving me. Jan, do you feel like you're kind of like, I don't know, like if you feel like this too, but do you feel like you have to do everything people
Of
ask?
course. Um, Actually, I often see it as a challenge because, yeah, I mean, if it's something that, like, sometimes it's just something that needs to get done. So it's like, it feels like you're letting the art director down if you don't do it. And,
Yes,
and, and
yes.
sometimes it feels like, hey, I think you'd be good at that. Like, this is kind of like not, not explicitly mentioned, but like, I feel like, oh, if he thinks I can do this, then maybe I should give it a go. And I like a challenge where like, if I if I kind of know how to do it, and it doesn't need to be a license plate or something, but it's like maybe something I haven't done before, but like, hey, I kind of can imagine how to do this well, so I'll just try and see and wing it or whatever, and sometimes some really interesting stuff comes out of that. Maybe it's something I really enjoy doing, and something I never really thought about doing. So it's like I feel like, hey, there's a challenge. Hey, there could be something interesting. I'll do it. But yeah, I never say no. So yeah.
Yeah. I think that's such an important thing because I feel like these uncomfortable situations, uncomfortable in the way where you're not sure if you can do it, always like you said, Jan, challenges you and then it leads you to a result that maybe it helps at least for me, it helps guide me to what my
Mm,
next like goalpost is. So I find it very exciting when I don't know how to do something because I know at least I can learn.
mm,
Yeah.
that's
no,
good.
that's interesting. Yeah, because I
Um,
think for me the challenge is um, learning to say no, because uh, I've been a pleaser for 20 years.
Hmm.
My first 20 years of doing art, and now I'm getting more and more into fine art, and so it's almost at a point where you need to kind of to preserve some of your own sanity, and your energy, because it takes a lot of energy to do something you don't really want to do.
Yeah, but I
Uh,
mean, that's different, right? Because then you figured out what you wanted to do for yourself. So I think that's even better than challenging yourself at work. So I think that's
well,
even
I'm
cooler.
still in that gray area where I'm like, I'm still working for somebody. So if they need something, I don't want to be the person that says, well, no. But at the same time, that thing I'm absolutely don't want to do because I already know, like I don't want to design a toilet, like
Hmm. Oh,
you
yes,
know,
that's
I
true.
mean, the funny thing is, I've gotten to a point where I've really embraced the fact that, hey, you know what? Design is not actually what I love the most. So it gets to be a problem sometimes when you
Mm.
get a job and your portfolio is still design, but what you're doing and what your interests are is starting to move away, So that's kind of where I'm at, where I'm kind of looking at, okay, well, I don't know where that's going to go, but the challenge for me is actually sometimes maybe to say, yeah, I don't really do that anymore, or I don't
Just
like
say
that.
anymore, and they'll be like, okay.
Yeah, now you're fired,
No, no, but I think,
because they
yeah.
hire you for a certain thing, right? So, if you tell them, hey, I don't do that, and they're like, well, I don't know, well, what do you do then? Like, we may not need, you. So it's a lot of stuff that, obviously that's my own thing, but I find that there are a lot of challenges, however you look at it. But like Jan's way of looking at it is also a really viable way, because I think, especially for people who are trying to find what they love to do,
Hmm.
I'm more of a specialist mentality person, where I think, like really do the thing you want to do and be good at it.
Hmm.
Get good at that thing. Of course, in this day and age, if you want to be hired and you want to have a consistent job, then I think you better know a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
So,
like 3D is really helpful and everything. But I think what you were saying too earlier is that your interest really changes the more you do art, right? So I think that's something that people should be open to and listen to. So I think that's also a very important point that you pointed out.
I was
yeah.
wondering, sorry, I was
Okay.
wondering, Angela, like since we're talking about hiring and roles and stuff like that, so how did it happen that from being a Visdev artist, you now are more like doing art direction? Is there like a natural evolution, or did somebody say, "Hey, you do art direction now," and then you just said
Um,
yes?
That's a great question. So I think on top of working hard, you really do have to. I think in the first few years, it's really important for us to show how eager we are. You have to be a little bit people pleasing to continue to get work, in my opinion, and in
Mhm.
my experience. But because I worked really hard, I actually had to ask people and tell them that I wanted to do art directing. So I actually got my first art directing gig maybe 7 years ago at DreamWorks on a TV series. And then from there, I went into feature because I also asked, I'm like, hey, I want to try feature. Can I do that? So after landing in feature, I started to talk to more people. And there was my friend, and she also was the one that brought me on to the movie I'm on right now. I told her I wanted to do art directing, and I think she really believed in me. Her name is Celine Deruma. She's French. I cannot pronounce her last name, so sorry if I butchered it. But she gave me the opportunity, and I don't know. I think it's about knowing people, letting people know, and then hard work. So it's like it's a lot of combinations of a lot of things, but timing is also really important.
I'm wondering, art direction, do you still have to do like, what like say, like d- story paintings or color scripts, or is it just purely art direction your day?
For me and my experience, I usually have to do some pieces to kind of establish a certain look, and then
Mhm.
I would have to also give notes. So it's kind of very hands-on for me, but I've seen a lot of art directors who just generally give notes and they're way more hands-off. So I think it's dependent on the style of the person.
Yeah, because sometimes, I was art director slash supervisor, a long time ago at a company, and I've always found that like you can't really do much work because you
Yes.
have so many meetings and so many people you need to talk to about art that it's, the job is pretty much like if you're an art director, you're pretty much not going to do a lot of art unless you want to sort of work, like a lot of hours,
Yeah,
like
unless you want to die.
pretty much. But I mean, but so far I've heard from a lot of people. Even Dylan was saying that he would do some pieces. So I'm like, wow, I don't know how you guys are finding the time, but
In the beginning, I think it's a lot easier, but once production starts happening, the meetings just keep piling on. So, if you get on early, I think you're really lucky. So you could do a lot of more blue sky and concepting. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Which leads me to all this is about work, but how did Warrior Paint and Warrior Camp, like it just sounds really interesting. How did all that come into fruition? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, so for warrior painters, I actually went to Shanghai for 2 years. The reason why I'm mentioning it is because that Shanghai is a very like concrete jungle, so I kind of really missed nature, and
mm,
I've decided to come back to Los Angeles, and I told Kaylee, who's my partner, that no matter what, I'm gonna go out every weekend to paint. I don't care if it's just me. So, it was in the beginning, it was just me, my two dogs, and Kaylee and nobody would join us. But I think as we became a little bit more consistent, we started to meet more people that wanted to help out with the group. And then now we're actually on our like 400, almost 50th session. So it's almost been 10 years since we ran this group. And it's been really fun, and we've been painting so much. And I just really wanted to improve and learn how to paint light and mix colors properly. So that was my goal. And I'm just happy people shared the passion. And Warrior Art Camp is our school, and basically we just hire people that I know that work in the industry, and we provide really small classes for people. And so far, a lot of people really enjoy our classes, and a lot of people get really great portfolio work out of it. So I'm really proud about that too.
and so for Warrior Camp, what was the reason you did? You just wanted to have a chance to sort of teach something, or what was the reason behind it?
I was teaching prior to starting the school, but I think I
Mhm.
realized that it's harder to find more specialized classes that either pipeline focused or even like fine art focused. So we kind of started to branch out, and it just kept increasing. And I just wanted to learn from different people. So I would ask them to teach. And then that way I can also take their classes. So it's partially a selfish reason too.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that because I mean, I think at the beginning you were talking about doing the fundamentals, and getting better at those things. And I think a lot of people, it's good to have this,
hmm
uh, to really be able to focus on trying to get better, especially, going to an art center is just not really feasible, or going, like going, a lot of schools are just, way out of reach.
It's too
Um,
expensive right now, and I think they fill the curriculum with a lot of like filler classes. So it makes it really hard to focus on actually getting better, in my experience at least.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
absolutely. I've been in the schooling system, especially seeing my partner teach at, CCA and then San Jose State, like I understand the programs and I'm like, ooh, what if you really wanted to target certain things? How would you do that? Or a brush up, or maybe you want to take a workshop with somebody that's really, really good, like are you teaching at Warrior Camp
Yeah,
now
yeah.
or?
I
Okay.
teach like maybe 3 times a year because my schedule gets kind of busy, but yeah, that's what I typically do.
And how many classes typically are happening? Is it like yeah, how many is it
So,
how
so
many?
Kaylee's insane. She runs the business, and basically she tries to have classes every month except for December. So
Mhm.
on average we've been getting about 8 to like 12 classes a month. So it's been like really busy for her. Yeah.
Wow, that's really that's really cool. So I mean, and is it really I would assume it's more animation based.
We actually have a lot of traditional classes because that's what I really value, and I want to take those classes too. We also have video game and a lot more animation, but I feel like there are not as many live action because I feel like live action, I don't know, can you two answer this? But I feel like it's so hard to get into. You guys have like this secret guild that's extremely hard to get into. So,
You
Yeah,
need
they
the
do. I
secret
don't. I'm
handshake.
completely outside.
okay.
You
Freemasons.
need this, you need the secret handshake. Um, I mean, honestly, film is just. I mean, without notwithstanding the fact that the industry is so weird right now.
hmm
Like even when it wasn't weird, it was hard because there's a union and all this kind of stuff, uh, and hard it's close to impossible to get into this union, and so yeah, definitely, and none of the jobs are being like advertised. Like there's no such thing, so it's really about who you know,
hmm
and in the end, it's really unfortunate. I mean, there are ways to get into it, but you'd have to go the VFX route, like probably VFX companies, and they have art departments, and you get in there.
And I
Um,
heard that that's like already really difficult because of like it outsourcing and everything, right?
yeah, outsourcing, the fact that the work is not local anymore, that's difficult. The pay, that's difficult because usually a lot less, because they can hire from other places. But it does exist, but it's pretty cutthroat, I'll say.
It sounds
And
very cutthroat.
it is very cutthroat, but honestly, I think I'm always at the belief that be it animation or anything, and it's unfortunate that there isn't much live action classes being given, but it's still fundamentals in the end.
Yes.
And good design is good design. Good painting is good painting. Although in VFX or in film, it's really a lot less painting and a
hmm
lot more just kind of photo bashing and 3D and stuff like that. And it's I hate to say this, but I think sometimes the design in film is not as um, thought out
Hmm.
as animation
I'm
or
shocked.
even
Seems like
yeah, because I
it's
mean
more
for
thought
film it's
out.
just really like a vibe, oh yeah, yeah, and then like, but I don't know about you, Jan, but I mean, there's not a lot of like this, like when we design, like even that stuff for Ghost in the Shell, the stuff that you did, like it's
Yeah.
not like you had to design the actual building and the cross section and all the
No,
shit.
no, no.
No, it was just kind of like, well, it looks kind of cool, so okay, we'll give it over to, in
Hmm.
my case, we'll go over to set designers who will just draft it into a set, and
Exactly.
then
Yeah.
they'll build the set, and then that's it.
Yeah. Everything's very like shot based, right? Everything's like, okay. We
Yeah.
just do something for this shot, make it look cool, and then we move on. And you don't have any time to really think about what's happening or if this even makes sense. In that sense, like video games, it's a lot more challenging because you really need to design like a 360 environment that you can't even
That
control
works.
the camera off, right? Like you can't even control the camera. Like the player will move around in it and has to be able to like look in any direction and see something cool, right? So really needs to be thought out in that way. Plus, like everything follows gameplay, right? It's not like like the visuals, of course, need to be cool, but it's like gameplay is king, right? So you have completely different set of considerations. Sorry, I wanted to ask something, and now I'm trying to find the connection here. So like I'm looking at a lot of like Visdev artists' work, and I really love just like looking at that stuff, and I'm always wondering, right? Like everybody seems to have like their own style and their own way of drawing things, and I was just wondering, like, is that the number one thing for a Visdev artist to have like your own style? Is that what gets you hired, or like what's important? What do you look for when you need to staff up a department now?
For me, actually, I think I'm just gonna speak for myself personally,
Mm,
but style is probably the least that I worry about because when I'm looking at a portfolio, I'm actually looking at like, oh, are they able to accomplish X, Y, and Z on the production? And then most importantly, like, do I have to paint over their stuff a lot and give them a lot of direction? So, I know it's hard to judge based off of a portfolio, but I kind of do look at the foundation, like kind of do they understand light and color harmonies? Do they understand perspective, which I think is something that's like really forgotten nowadays, and just how to blade depth and scale is also really important for me. And form. I think form is something that I don't often see when it comes to like paintings and stuff now. So generally, I know that's kind of a vague answer, but style is really important. But if they can combine it on top of this stuff, I think that's just like it solidifies me wanting to work with them.
Oh, interesting. Is there like we've seen a lot of, but on that note, I feel like more recently I've seen a lot more stuff that kind of seems to be outside of the usual kind of Pixar style or Disney
Hmm.
style, like recent stuff, like of course Spider-Verse. Everybody wants to be Spider-Verse or whatever. I think that the Turtles movie, the new one, kind of did like a Spider-Verse wannabe, and then one I really enjoyed was like I think Mitchells and the Machines. I think that was
Hmm.
quite funny, and where they really tried to like I don't know try to capture like a fresh kind of look for it, right?
Kind of
And
that
that,
handmade feeling,
yeah, I
right?
know, right? Like
Yeah.
handmade, but it's 3D and kind of drawn, but not. And um, but I always look at that and think like, oh wow, like I guess like it always makes me feel like it's all about style now. It's like all like, oh,
Hmm.
you have to figure out a different way to show it, so we can sell a new. So we can package some old story and show it in a new way, kind of thing, right? I don't
Yes,
know.
very good observation. Very true. So I do think what's really cool about I think animation is that they are trying to go to multiple different styles now. I do think Spider-Verse kind of opened the door to that. So now everybody is trying to explore it. Yeah, I think even with K-pop, how they played with the lighting and stuff, that is just so uncommon. So I think that was so exciting. And I don't know, I think style is really important, but did you guys watch Arcane, by the way? This is
Yeah, of
kind of
course.
connected.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I just think how everybody's pushing the way that they stylize things is important, but they're still grounded really much in reality. So I do think even though they're pushing for different types of style, painterly, more handmade, sketchy, more graphic, they still have that like common ground that ties it together. So I do think the style helps, but it's kind of combining everything that I mentioned earlier, the foundations of perspective, lighting, form, etc.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, style. It's amazing. Even when you're talking about Spider Verse, Jan, I feel like there's so much fundamentals still in there that it doesn't even really matter. Like it's just a, but it is a really good question because if someone comes to you with like a really heavy sense of like a style that may not fit your show. Do you kind of go, well, it's great stuff, but if you're painting like super high contrast, and we're not doing that,
Hmm.
you're just seeing the potential in the person, or does that affect how you would look at them?
I think sometimes if they might be painting in like for example, if the movie that I'm working on is like low contrast, local color, but theirs is more high contrast, if I could see that they can have that versatility to adapt, I think that's fine.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think sometimes it's hard to say. I'm sure you two experience it because you guys are both art directed before, but there's just something about someone's artwork when you guys see it, you're like, I know that this can work, right? So I think it's just kind of the accumulation of experience that you guys both have, and maybe some stuff that I go through that makes me believe in someone. So it's really hard to say. People ask about portfolio, but I feel like there's never a concrete answer, and I don't know if you guys feel the same way.
Definitely.
I mean,
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I think that I portfolio is one of those things where I think when you see something good,
Yes.
But I personally, I think I would. I mean, I've looked at a lot of portfolios and I've given a lot of portfolio reviews, but it's usually the ones that leave me wanting more, and has a really good sort of. It grabs me in terms of some things they're trying to say.
Hmm.
Those are the things that grab me more.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm not that. As long as they can do sort of the technical stuff, they don't have to be the best at it. Because I remember I asked Jason this question, Jason Shire, this question, and he said that he doesn't really care whether they're the best technically. He cares that they have good ideas
That's
and they can
important
solve
too.
problems. Yeah, because
Yeah.
he can always teach them how to, you know, up their game technically, but you can't really, you don't really want to teach them how to think more.
Yes.
That's the harder part. Yeah.
That's really hard. Jan, do you have the same experience too, or?
I I feel like often like I'm a dictator. I need everybody to work the same way I do. So I tend to hire people who have a similar kind of way of working, and also who often came through a similar way of education. And by
Mm-hmm.
that I mean like because I went through Feng Shui school, I often hire people from Feng Shui school that came out the other end like with a somewhat decent portfolio, because I know they have the right work attitude
Mm-hmm.
and value the right kind of things. And but the thing is, I usually don't work on like long term projects like for like 2-3 years. Like
Mm-hmm.
for me, it's like, okay, I need to assemble I need to assemble like a gang. Like I need to assemble like a gang of mercenaries to like come in for like two months or whatever, and kill everything in sight on like first shot. And so I need to have like an ultra reliable group of people, and I don't have time to train anyone. So it
Yes.
needs to be like from day one. So my requirements, I think, are very different from somebody else. Um, yeah,
But
but
I think it's
yeah.
important that you get along with them, right? And I
Oh
think
yeah,
that's
of
something
course.
that
Yeah.
people don't think about either. They're like they think they can be the best artist, but then sometimes they have a really bad attitude and you're just like,
Mm.
I don't think I ever want to work with you
I
again.
know, I know. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
of course, we all make our mistakes. Not mistakes, but like it just doesn't like. I don't feel like necessarily that person then is like if he's not a good fit, then it's not like his or my fault. It's just like well, you might work in a different environment. You would work better, right? You would be more
Hmm.
suited to something else. It's not that you're fundamentally bad at doing this, right? Your stuff is still beautiful, but yeah, it needs to like more things need to align than just everybody being able to produce nice pictures, right? So yeah.
Hmm. The teamwork aspect is super important. And I love what Emmanuel mentioned too, from Jason, how the thought process is really important. So I do think that design thinking is something that's really important that I also feel like a lot of people should maybe strengthen too. Do you guys feel like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's always things that hopefully would make your uniqueness come through. Because anybody can learn how to draw in perspective. If you draw enough, you'll learn it.
Hmm.
But it's this. But not that many people do the same exercise with thinking,
Yes.
especially critical thinking, right?
Hmm.
How to analyze something and how to kind of crack a design that you need by really thinking it through. I mean, no matter how well you draw it, if you can't, have that aspect, it'll never be good. It'll
Yes,
be
true.
well drawn, but it won't be good.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean that's how I feel at least. Yeah.
So for Jan and Emmanuel, when you guys are thinking about like design thinking, do you guys have any tips? Because you both are really experienced and have a lot of experience. So I'm curious to hear what you guys think in terms of that type of thinking and maybe how to exercise that.
Wow, that's a good one. Um,
Tables
well,
are turned, man.
yeah. I think they're being
Jan.
asked more questions than the other way around this time around. I'm doing a lot of mentorships right now, and I'm really trying to focus on teaching the design aspect of it, because I always see that that's coming too short. And the funny thing is that a lot of students always think that they have to come up with like something like never seen before. Like it needs to be like out of this world, and I need to like use my brain to like come up with like the most amazing thing. Like I don't know, like a walking toilet that can make you hamburgers. I don't know, right? Like, but it's really not about
That
that, right?
sounds
It's like,
disgusting, man.
yeah, I know, right? But that will not. Anyway, so like I don't know. I defer a lot back to like what Feng Zhu taught, and what he still preaches, and that is like, I mean, start off with like designing stuff that is mostly from the real world, but like maybe 10% is added. It's like different, right? With the famous example of like the helicopters in Avatar are still essentially like the same helicopters they had in Vietnam, just like add some more guns or make them twice as big, kind of thing, right? And that's totally true. And from there on, you can kind of push yourself to design more and more and more difficult things. Like you increase the strangeness or the plus one to like 20%, 30%. Because if you're trying to solve not only the rendering and the execution of it in 3D or whatever, or in paint, and you're struggling with painting anyway, on top of that, you're supposed to design something different and strange and never seen before. You're tackling just too many issues at the same time. So unless you're like
Yes.
really, really proficient in it, it's gonna come up short. And I think that's a great way to look at it. To like, well, kind of hold yourself back a little bit. Like make a tank that has maybe one cool feature that nobody has ever done before, but then leave the rest of the tank alone. That already might result in a really interesting result. Um, and kind of go from there. That's usually, I think, how I would approach it. Yeah. Sorry, Emmanuel, do you have maybe a different way of looking at it?
No, I mean, honestly, I think you guys are much more entrenched in the whole teaching mode now, whereas I'm much more in the learning phase
Mm.
because I'm doing new things. So for me, I'm just all about learning now. Because I'm in doing sculpting and a lot of sort of character work. So that's not what I'm known for. And so, yeah, I'm in learning mode. So
That's
I
nice.
don't, and honestly, when I do anything that's outside of uh, character work, which is for myself, then it's just kind of work, and I just try to do it, the best way I know how at this point. But I think I've kind of fell out of love a little bit with, that what I used to do. It's just been a long time, and I found something I really love now. So I'm much more into keyframes and stuff like that, and uh,
Well,
yeah.
you can do
But
everything else already. Like for you, the
yeah,
design is
that's
like
true.
built into your pen, right? It's like it comes out
No, I mean,
naturally. So.
honestly, I would just say that, I, kind of sucks that it took me so long to find my
Mm.
path, you could say. But I just think that really nowadays, I think people, a lot of younger students, they find their way a lot quicker because they're exposed to so much stuff, and there is like schools like yours and classes like yours that are very specific. All you got to do is take a class and go, oh yeah, I really dig that. I'm gonna keep doing that, or maybe not, and that's
Hmm.
okay. Um, Nothing's wasted. But I mean, it took me this long to break my fear of, figurative work. And so now I'm just kind of like, on the one hand, you're just trying to make a living. I need to make a living. And then also, one of the big things is how to change your portfolio slowly so that people start hiring you for the new thing. And I went through this when I did matte painting, back in the day. And then I changed the concept, and it took like 2, 3 years before people, didn't email me anymore about, matte painting work because I would just keep turning it down. Like, I don't matte paint anymore. I don't, but your portfolio is still matte painting because that's all you have. So now I'm kind of in that mode of changing what I do,
Hmm.
uh, which is, interesting. But yeah, I mean, I'm in learning phase, and it's great. I love it.
Yeah.
I love being in that mode.
I do think I agree with kind of what you guys were all saying, and especially with Jan when you were talking about making things believable though for the design thinking. I know Emmanuel is talking about like finding your true passion, which I think is also really important. But I think when it comes to design thinking, um, humans all need something to kind of relate to in my experience. So I try to, even when I'm doing like my paintings, the light has to be grounded, even though I'm kind of exaggerating it. So even though this isn't like design in terms of like vehicles or
Mm.
props or anything, I feel like it still carries throughout whatever you're doing. So going back to Emmanuel, as Jan said, you just have this baked into your head. So I think even when you're designing story moments, all of these things just come together. Maybe you don't even realize it, but I think that's what's like really cool about art. It's just an accumulation of all these skills, and then it becomes kind of like second nature to you. So you don't even have to think about it, even though you worked really hard to ingrain this into your brain. So, as you were saying too, Emmanuel, like it's not a waste to learn anything, even though you don't like it. I think somehow it'll resurface and help you out later on. So, that's why I also appreciate art, and I think that's what makes it so difficult because there's so many like open ends to these things that you don't know if you're going down the right path. Maybe you find it a lot later than other people, but everything that you did prior to it helps. So I find that really exciting. And hopefully one day, when I look back on my career, I'm like, oh, this one thing that I thought was really stupid that I didn't want to learn is helping me now. So, yeah, I do think that's really fun.
Yeah, no, no. And the one thing that's really interesting is that I'm doing a lot of sort of clay sculpting and just analog stuff, especially now with all the AI stuff. That I don't know. I just kind of I'm going the way of like, well, AI can't really do the sculpt for me, because it's just you got to work with your hands. But I'm wondering, when you go in plein air paint and all that kind of stuff, does it? I mean, I'm sure AI must cross your path at some point, in terms of like even what you see or what people are talking about or the potential of what it can be or whatever. It must feel good to sort of go out with a brush and okay, well, nobody can do this. This is from my brush. Yeah.
Yeah, I do think everybody encounters it. It's kind of frustrating when we're on Google. I'm sure you guys experience this too, searching for artwork and then you find an AI image. You're like, oh my gosh, how does this actually look like? But what's really cool about I think just creating artwork from humans is I love how everybody's imperfections that's kind of like all of our signatures. So I think I really appreciate that aspect of whether it's analog or like digital art or even 3D, like when you guys are building 3Ds, maybe there's just like slight miscalculations of something. So I feel like AI is just trying to pursue perfection, so they can never accomplish that like unique look that all humans create. So even though like AI is out there, I'm not as worried because I just don't think they can replicate like all of these beautiful imperfections that we all create by like everyone you can tell everyone to draw something like the same subject, but everybody draws it differently, and I think that's so cool. Yeah. So
But
I don't
isn't
care
it?
about
Sorry.
it.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
Jan. Yeah, go ahead.
No, no, no. I'm just like, uh, it sounds so nice and idyllic, right? And blah blah blah. But like, at least questions I'm being confronted with a lot, and I was wondering what you tell your students. It's like I'm sure that a lot of them are very like, especially juniors, are very worried about a future in this industry, whether it's animation or film or TV or games or whatever. The fear is all the same. Um, like, are there going to be junior jobs? Like, do I need to learn AI? Like, um, like, does it even make sense to like, yeah, learn this fundamental drawing, which is really annoying and takes so much time? Like, is that even worth learning if next year I can, I don't know, make a animation feature film on my phone? Um,
Hmm.
I mean, this is just exaggerating, right? I mean, I hope we never get to
Okay,
this
that is
point,
kind
but
of
you never
true
know.
though.
But that is kind of what's
Yeah, it's
happening
kind
now.
of what's
Yeah, I
happening.
know, right? I mean, not that you should do that, but like, I mean, I wish I had like a good, great answer to just like make my point. I don't know. Are you being asked that? What do you reply?
So many people are asking me, and I do feel like there's going to be less and less junior positions. That's just me being
Mm,
honest.
mm,
But I do feel like art, if you guys just look at the history, right, of humankind, I feel like it's just such an important part that there's no way that AI will just like AI won't take over humans, but I think they'll take over some jobs. But I feel like the most important thing is people have to remember why they wanted to do art in the first place. And This is kind of like me, and I'm speaking from a person with like severe anxiety. If you keep worrying about things that you think might happen to you, you might not be able to enjoy the process and get better. So, it's the same way with art. I know that like this AI threat is very serious and it's very much there, but if you guys don't work on yourself and take time for yourself to get better, you can't compete with it anyways. So this is just the harsh reality. And I'm sure both of you experienced this too, but I feel like art's a very difficult profession because not only do our um, love for art in different categories change, but it's just you have to keep constantly grinding. And then this is just the common thing. So if you guys do want to do art, I think you have to try to like forget about the threat for a bit and just focus on yourself. And that's kind of what I tell people. And I know that might not be helpful, but I do think this is kind of the reality too.
I mean, we all started doing art not because it was like boring or yeah, we all started doing art because it was fun.
Yes.
And I feel like a lot of the fun gets sucked out when you try to, like try to, I need a job or I need this or I need that. And, of course, everybody, looks to the future and says, well, I can't survive without this, that, or the other thing. But I'm like, you got to, at some point, you're going to have to kind of put that on the back burner and just get back to what you enjoy. Because that's the only way you're going to make your best art.
Yes.
And people are going to hire you for your best art, not for what everybody else is doing. So, it's a hard time, but it's also hard times. With hard time comes a lot of challenge and opportunity.
Yes.
And you take the opportunity right, then you'll learn something, and it might be the push that we need. Who
Hmm.
knows? I mean, no, I didn't do sculpting because of AI, but I mean, I was just like, well, okay, well, it's not going to be able to, you know, sculpt that, and AI just doesn't know, it doesn't know what you are going to create,
Hmm.
next.
It can
Uh,
only regurgitate things that have been made. So,
yeah,
yeah.
and I think a lot of people are like really scared, but I would also say, well, go play with some AI, and you'll find out actually how difficult it is.
Yeah.
It sounds easy because it's easy to get that one image, right? Just like something, right? But if I told you, hey, change the angle, good luck.
Yeah, but
Have
it goes
fun.
back to what we were talking about too, right? About that thought process of creating something unique and something that's like resonates with people too. And I feel like that's something that the machine can't necessarily take away from us. Because I feel like as artists, you have to be very observant and you have to be able to communicate that properly when you're designing too. Yeah.
Yeah. The funny thing is, especially with keyframes and all that, I think, a lot of times the most successful keyframes and the most successful storytelling is coming from memories.
Yes.
And memories like, when you were young, your mom made you this, and
Hmm.
the light was just hitting the soup at the right angle with the steam. And, that's what made you feel like home.
Hmm.
You paint that, somebody else is going to feel that. And the computer just doesn't know that,
Yeah. They
and
don't have the
yeah.
memory library. So
Yeah, and we all have our unique set of memories that somebody else has kind of felt similar things. So,
hmm.
even if you just go start from there, it's going to be really powerful stuff. But you got to have
Exactly.
the skills to do it.
Yes.
'Cause you can't just go, oh, what the hell is that? Oh, yeah, I guess. Then it's no good.
Exactly. So it takes like a lot of balance for both
Yeah.
things. And that's why I think art's like very difficult.
But I mean, it's also what's fun about it because it's got no bottom, like you can keep going till the rest of your life,
Yes.
and probably not hit, like you won't learn everything.
Yeah,
It's
you'll
not
always
possible.
feel miserable about yourself. That's what's good about art.
Well,
Great.
I don't want that. I don't do that.
Okay,
Life's too
maybe it's
short to
just a
feel
me thing.
miserable, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's yeah, I get it. Yeah, I'm at the age where I just want to feel good, man. I just want to feel good today. Physically, emotionally, mentally, as much as I can. I just
Hmm.
want to feel good.
That makes sense.
Great.
John?
I'm just thinking if we have any more questions to kind of wrap this up. I think we've kind of gotten through most of it. Maybe a couple of quick questions we always ask, kind of like in the end. Kind of what was your favorite project you worked on, and maybe why?
Mm. Okay, this is gonna sound kind of weird, but I feel like they're all great and
Of course.
bad at the same time. I feel like there's never a perfect production. So they kind of like equal out to me in the end, but I think the best project for me is just my personal work too.
Oh,
After work, I like to spend some time to paint a little bit to kind of unwind. It's kind of funny. Sometimes people ask me, "Oh, what do you do for fun?" And I'm like, "Oh, I paint for myself." And then they're like, "Aren't you painting the whole day?" I'm like, it's kind of different. So I think that project that's best for me is my personal stuff. But if we really have to choose a professional one, um, I think they were like I said, they were all good and bad for different reasons, but I think the one that was probably the most helpful for my career is either Bad Guys or Kipo. So I feel like those were kind of the most memorable. Also the one that I did in Shanghai, Wolf Smoke, that one was like the hardest job I've ever had, but I learned the most from it too. As a person and artistically.
Just piggyback off that. How was it working in Shanghai?
It was very hard. So even though I look Asian, you think that would make it a little bit easier, but it actually made it a lot harder because my Chinese is like the fluency of a th second grader. So they always discriminated me because they're like, why can't you speak your language? But I think I learned a lot living in a different country. And the way that Asians work, it's very different than America. And then they have a very like I'm gonna work till I die type of mentality. So it's kind of unhealthy, but it does help you produce really great work. And I always try to encourage people if they have a chance when they're a little bit younger to kind of go to a different country to learn a different pipeline. It's always really helpful. And
Hmm.
I always encourage it. And it's just good. Like you guys all live in different like Jan, you live in Singapore. Don't you think it's
Mhm.
so beautiful, like just absorbing a different culture?
Of course. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So I do
I
think it's
recommend it.
very important. Yeah.
You mentioned you I mean I think you also enjoy like movies and animation films like in your free time, right? Do you have any favorite kind of things? It doesn't need to be recent, can also be all-time classics when it comes to anything like animation, film, books, games, anything. Like what's your favorite thing?
Okay, it's kind of sad. I don't really watch movies or TV or that much anymore
Okay.
because I think I'm just painting for myself. But I think the things that shaped me the most were like video games, the PlayStation era,
Okay.
because I
Oh
love
wow.
JRPGs. And I mean
Oh, okay.
Final Fantasy VII is such a generic answer, but I think that one just got me
That's
really
fine.
interested in doing art. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. I think we're just about there. Emmanuel, do you have any last thing you wanted to
No, I
ask?
mean, I asked a lot of questions, and I
It
know
was
this
great.
was just a great sort of back and forth. Really enjoyed
Yes.
it. We don't normally talk that much.
Oh,
Yeah,
but
I
I think
know,
it's
right?
really cool because I love what you guys are saying. And it's just so interesting how even though there's overlap, we kind of do things a little differently. So I learned a lot too. Thank you for sharing.
Awesome. Well, great.
Oh
Thank you so
no,
much for coming on and
Yeah.
yeah, for the great conversation. Thank you to the audience for tuning in yet again. Thank you so much and see you in the next episode.
Yeah. See you guys. Thanks for having me.